Welcome to Lady Audaci-TEA. It's Alex.
And Amanda.
And for the second time, I've said my real name by accident and not Alex. And we've had to start over. It just keeps wanting to come out.
It's been such a long year. That's where we're at.
We were just literally a good 5 minutes just reviewing all the little bits and what are we going to go with.
This was this year? Oh, right.
Right. Literally, that kept Spare. Spare was this year, you guys. I don't know why I find that so unbelievable, but in a good way, it feels like it's been out for 2 years. I don't know. I guess that's also why there's still so much on the defense. Okay, now it all makes sense now, right now.
We're putting the pieces together. We're bookending this year with Spare and then Endgame. And I don't know.
Yes. I think also, too, yeah, with Endgame just coming out, it's just like, the royals have had a year and I'm not mad at it.
They can't catch a break, these British royals. But we're going to go through the highlights, the lows of the year, not just for just the British royals, but we're going to go international a bit too. So that'll be fun.
Yes. Yes, and devastating, okay, Frederick. You, man. No, it's been a really good year. And to start us off, because we asked you guys, like, send in what your highs and lows were. And we also had, of course, do what our bananas article was. And a couple of people mentioned this in our DM because of banana articles of the year. As we were briefing before we started recording, I said, I can't believe I can actually type this in and something pops up. But you can now type Kate Middleton's ancestor stop slavery and an article comes up. Twilight Zone is what 2023 is for the Daily Mail, because who else? Who absolutely else? But the title is How Kate's Ancestor Played a Key Role in Abolishing Slavery After the Sussexes' Barbs About Royals and Racism by Claudia Joseph. The Princess of Wales' ancestor was known as Greatest American Abolitionist. Oh, I said that very wrong. I abolished that. Anyways, Harriet Martineau fought a lifelong battle to abolish slavery and racism in the U.S.
It's Harriet Martineau for the record. But Martini
My
also
version's
fits.
cuter. My version's way cuter, by the way. The real travesty of this is why, the preface to why they're even bringing this up. They're saying, William's comments after, this is a line in here. William's comments were made following Prince Harry's notorious interview with Oprah Winfrey when talking about the comments he made in the Caribbean about how bad and horrible slavery was, because we did not know that. And another one they bring up was earlier this month, it emerged that another significant move of contrition. King Charles is supporting an inquiry for historic royal palaces and Manchester University into the monarchy's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. Mm-hmm. So this is the other ring given, and both, I guess, good reasons in their eyes to put out this random ass information and article and tie the Sussex to it too.
Yeah.
This is 3 months after Spare, so I can see that they would still be on the defense, but not much for this. But what's interesting about this is the actual reason this article is dropping. Because 8 days before this, an article had dropped in The Guardian. This was April 6th, The Colston Connection, How Prince William's Kensington Palace home is linked to slavery. Right. 8 days later, April 14th, we get Kate's ancestor to pretty much helped abolish slavery. So this is a real reason they're even talking about this, but they don't want to actually directly regard that article. So they're just going to talk about Meghan and Harry.
Yeah.
And get the clicks.
And the link to Kate is so interesting. They're saying, against such a backdrop, it is unsurprising that the king's aides are jittery over the inquiry's eventual findings. And then they say, but the picture, it's hardly clear cut. We can all agree that the slave trade was abhorrent, but there is no justification for blaming Charles III for the actions of Charles II. So that's their lead in. But they're they're pivoting in one paragraph to saying you can't blame the current king for the actions of a past king. But now in the next paragraph, we can apparently absolve the Princess of Wales for any connections to racism because of her ancestor. The math is not mathing here.
It is not mathing. And what's really interesting too, thank you for pointing that out, is that they're saying, don't blame this previous king for this king's action. And that also has to do with this article, because they're talking about how which his namesake, William's namesake, King William III, directly signed off on slavery. He directly
Yeah.
signed off on letting them use his resources to start the slave trade. And that's what's being brought up in this article, and how there's a huge statue at Kensington Palace, and there's all types of things that's pretty much giving praise to him. And it's just, yeah, it's interesting how Charles is brought up and not William, when we know what this article is all about when you look into the timeline.
Yeah.
This is also why I'm like, I know Kensington Palace briefed this. It is
Well, here's the
so
thing.
obvious.
If Kensington Palace did brief this, now looking back at this time at the end of the year, post Endgame, post Kate
Mm-hmm.
being named as a person who had concerns over Archie's skin tone, I think
I didn't
there's
even
a
think
different
about that.
yeah, I think there's a different facet to it now, because we're directly juxtaposing Kate and Meghan. Because the next paragraph, which I abhor on so many levels as a historian, they're saying Kate's great 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 aunt, who was born in Norfolk, became known as the greatest American abolitionist because she lobbied President James Madison and Andrew Jackson. And it was that lobbying which ultimately set in motion the Emancipation Proclamation, the declaration that freed the Duchess of Sussex's great 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 grandfather from servitude. Uh, it's
Gosh,
disgusting. It's gross. And you can't help
so
but wonder,
disgusting.
because who would have briefed this if not Kensington Palace? What were they
Exactly.
trying what were they trying to get ahead of months in advance of it
Mm-hmm.
actually happening? I think is a valid question to ask.
Exactly. And I think too, because the underlining message in that is Meghan should be thankful for Kate and her family. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's kind of the foundation of their work when it comes to Black and Brown communities. It's like, hey, even though a lot of the actions my ancestors did directly affect you and where you are, especially when it comes to um, the economy. Let's
Mm-hmm.
not forget, a lot of oftentimes when they're visiting Black and brown neighborhoods, these are also very poor communities, and it has so much to do with slavery and the effects we still see today, but also, of course, racism and so many things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
sorry about that. I do some charity work for you, so you should forgive me and want me here and ignore the fact that we ran out the only Black family member to ever be in this family. It's not a good trade, but they keep trying to
Mm-hmm.
force it as one. And I think, like you said, the defense and how Kate's defense goes about it for her is always very like, oh gosh, Kate, you really are that type of person. You are a Karen. You are
Mm-hmm.
a Karen. I think that's what we've continued to learn, but especially learned in 2023, that Kate is a Karen. And sometimes she's a very fashionable one. I will say that, with a
Yeah.
good speech every now and then, clap for her, but she's a Karen.
Sometimes my phone will autocorrect Kate to Karen when I'm typing, and I've almost like hit post. I'm like, oh crap, I have to go fix that. But like sometimes I'm tempted. I'm like, it fits, it's fine. But
It's right. I don't know if they're ready for that, but
the, the whole liberator by proxy thing, I just every time I think about it, the Twitter reactions at the time though were a
yeah.
plus out of this bananas article.
Those were, what is it? The one that made her, that photoshopped her
Harriet
face on
Tubman.
Harriet Tubman. Stop it.
Harriet
Stop it. And
Tubman.
you guys,
Mhm.
like, this went outside of just royal Twitter
Yeah.
too. Like, Black Twitter
Black
got on
Twitter.
this. So,
Yeah.
it was hilarious. And it really was just like, ma'am, you have to stop every time. And this is why Gen Z, though, doesn't like you. Because honestly and truly, the true demographic that you guys are always focused on is dying
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And it's the complete opposite of what Gen Z wants to see from you.
For sure.
Like, every now and again, William gets it right when he, invites TikTok influencers and stuff to Earthshot. But like, overall, the demographic that they are just so focused on should not be the one they're focusing on. And these articles are a great example of that, because what works for them is getting you flamed on Twitter.
Yeah. I was
Flamed.
thinking, like, I would have loved to read this article from a reputable publication, not framed this way. Like, an article
Exactly.
juxtaposing these two women's ancestry would have been really interesting if it hadn't been framed as being proof that the royals can't possibly be racist. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Ask, what would her ancestor think of her? And her place in this family and a part of this society. What would she think?
I also loved, sorry, last thing for me from this article, they literally found quotes calling Kate's great aunt ugly. They said Charles Darwin said he was astonished to find how ugly she was. I loved that the Daily Mail had to slide that in there.
We do love that. So now, sorry guys, I had to change spots and the way I'm holding this microphone. But we can now get into some of the highs and lows of this year, but just overall really big moments and what came with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the big one has been the Jordanian royal wedding, especially from the messages we got in for the Q&A answers. And honestly, yes, I feel like it was everything we thought the coronation was going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
guest list, fashion, surprise appearances.
Yeah, I haven't live streamed a royal event like besides the funeral and the coronation, like outside of those big generation defining events. I haven't live streamed a royal event in years. This was the first one where I sat in front of my computer and I was glued and trying to see who was showing up and what they were wearing and getting all the live updates. Like this is the first one in ages that I loved every second of it.
It was so fun. It was so fun. I mean, for me, a big one was Princess Mary. I was loving her fit. The one
Mhm.
that she came in, it was that long sleeved gown with like a blue ribbon around it, and then that bow, that cute bow. Oh, it was so good. Kate's too. I loved her welcome look. I wasn't a fan of the reception look. Her
Yeah.
eyeshadow, I actually made a meme of her and James Charles side by side because that was what her that's what her bronzer was giving. Okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
boo boo. I respect the 2015 makeup, but I also don't respect the bronzer.
Yeah. Well, and the other one was Princess Beatrice, who sometimes the styling is not giving. At this royal wedding, it was. It very much was.
The welcome look, but for me, the reception was bad, and I think what got me too was the hair. Her hair was still way
Mm.
too blonde, and she was doing that kind of messy look, but it was just looking rat nest. Does that mean?
It's not mean, but remember, her mom, Sarah Ferguson, went on a podcast right after and said she like didn't think that the Jordanian hairstylists knew how to style a tiara. So I think they knew. She made some comments on
See,
her podcast. Yeah.
Fergie agrees with me. Okay, it's true. It's true. I never thought I would say those words, but Fergie agrees with me. Like, but she was looking beautiful. And honestly, what was really interesting too is learning about Princess Beatrice's relationship with the Jordanian royal family,
Yes.
because honestly, the friendship they try to give William and Hussein is actually the friendship he has with Beatrice,
Hmm.
because she was at Princess Salma. I think that's how you say her name. She actually went to her graduation in Sandhurst. That was in 2018. I think Nisha, I don't know how to say her last name, Nonoo, is Meghan's bestie. She was
Mhm.
also at that graduation too, and at Beatrice's 30th birthday party, which was in Jordan. Husan was there, Misha was there, also Carly Kloss was there. Random group of people. Okay, Beatrice like just be popping out with the most Piers Morgan one day, Jordanian future king the next. To be a princess, okay. But I thought that was really interesting, and it was a surprise pop up. And when you look at their friendship, there seems to genuinely be one there. But the one we kept hearing about was Prince William and Hussein's, and there's like one video they have of them in from like 2018, and just kept replaying it over and over and over again. We also had that moment when William rushed Kate along. Remember that one?
Cringe. A very cringy moment.
Very cringy. So it's when they're leaving to kind of set the scene. It's after the wedding. Everyone's leaving. They're doing the oh my gosh, congratulations to the family. And William is awkwardly standing there waiting for Kate to be done chatting and, being a great guest. And he usually he gets his finger up and twirls it around, a quick dad being annoying at the airport, but he's doing it to his wife and telling her to wrap it up. And this is on the live stream. I don't know
Yeah.
if he probably didn't quite know the camera angle, even though I'm sure they gave him those notes. But we all know William doesn't really read his notes before engagement. So he probably didn't know the camera was panning on him and showed a little bit of his true colors. It was kind of giving Charles Penn moment.
Yes. And we will talk about the pen moment later in our worst moments, I'm sure. But yeah, the amount of people when I posted that clip of William rushing Kate who said, "What are you talking about? This is so normal. My husband does it to me all the time." I'm like, "Oh, boo boo. I think you
Stop
need
outing
to."
yourselves.
Yeah, I think we need to have a talk with you as
Please stop.
well. It's not
Boo
normal.
boo, baby girl, that's not a good thing. Okay, it's coming. The call is coming from inside the house.
There was a lot of normalizing in general of like shitty male behavior this year, is what I'm like realizing in this
Oh my
recap.
gosh. I mean, the fight that broke out, and suddenly, like, William's, like, sexiest man of the year now because he's so manly because he, like, pushed his brother down from
Sexiest
me, like,
bald man
hunting.
of the year.
2 years in a row, everyone has questioned what is going on with the voting board. Is it all William?
Oh
Like,
my
that's what I
god.
want to know. William and his two hairs and his one fan.
Another surprise pop up at this wedding was the Middletons, because
Oh my
every royal
God.
family that got invited to this wedding, you got the sense that they were given a very small guest list, basically. And the British
Yes.
surprised us. The Spanish also surprised us for a reason we will get to in a moment. But the Middletons
Yes.
being invited not as like dignitaries, but as it seems private, like personal family guests.
Yes.
And we didn't see them at the ceremony, but we saw them at the reception. So when they
Yes.
popped up, everyone started thinking, oh, these connections run a little deeper than just
Yeah.
Beatrice being friendly.
Okay. Okay. Right. Noted. Noted. Carol, my bad. Don't. I've always said, like, you wish you were Kris Jenner, but maybe Kris Jenner wishes she was you. Okay. Like, boo boo.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and another surprise pop up. Honestly, and maybe not too surprising for my family, although I don't think they're friends anymore because Ivanka Trump was just in Israel, and we all know that Queen Rania is all about free Palestine right now. So maybe they
Mm-hmm.
regret giving that invitation to that BITCH because she was at the wedding. But the
Yeah.
real shocking one was that the photo of her talking to William popped up, which
They have the friendship that the Royal Roto wants us to think William and Hussein have. Again, it's Ivanka and William.
literally, yeah. I was like, oop. And Kate, see, it's always William's dumb enough to get caught like that, but Kate is never that dumb. She said, I'm going
Mm-mm.
to walk my ass 4 steps ahead. Thank you very much. I actually did read the notes and know where the cameras are, and I will not be caught in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Me nor my bronzer.
I still need to make the video about how Ivanka's style and Kate's style are just parallel all the time.
So parallel. And like how often they're wearing the same things, I don't know. When Kate's actually like dressing a little bit like herself and not like Meghan,
Mm-hmm.
it's just quite wild. I Yeah, I would like one day wonder if we're ever going to see more of that or more of that's going to come out. I know Kim Kardashian is trying to make Ivanka Trump happen on a mainstream level. So maybe they'll get a little more honest about that friendship there. Who knows?
Who knows?
But
Anything could happen.
one of the biggest, honestly, at least in the royal fandom, the biggest pop up would have been former King Juan Carlos from Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Because this wedding, we're all thinking King Philippe and Queen Letizia are going to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But no, 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 no. A former, and this, okay. So for people who don't know anything about him, let me explain why this is a big deal. But Amanda and I are both just like, I cannot believe, was this man pretty much exiled himself in 2020 when it came out that he was a scammer,
Mm-hmm.
like a huge scammer. So obviously he's had a ton of affairs because that's what these men seem to do. But what happened was in 2018, one of his previous mistresses had to start talking because her Swedish accounts had like all of this money in it. Like they saying like a huge amount of money, and they're wondering where it's coming from because it's not accounted for. And she spills on him and pretty much says that he got like a kickback of $100 million from the Saudi Arabia family or the government. I'm not sure if it was the royal family. Well, the royal family is the government. Yeah. So he got $100 million kickback and pretty much deposited it into her bank accounts. So that all came out. They said this is from Political, from like a 2020 Political article. It was taken of the Saudis' appreciation for the Spanish king's help in contracting a company to build a high-speed railway to Mecca, part of an $8 billion Saudi project.
Mm-hmm.
And they also then found out a couple of foundations were solely made to pretty much funnel money to him. So this all started blowing up back in the day. Even as early as 2014, people were asking questions about his finances. So he handed over the monarchy to his son, King Philippe.
Felipe.
Felipe. Thank you. I said that right the first time I said his name.
You did.
They kicked it back to him to try to get off, but he didn't leave until 2020.
So really since COVID, he dipped out of Spain. He's been hiding out really in a mansion in Abu Dhabi. And the few events we've seen him for, one of them was this Jordanian royal wedding. He did not even attend his granddaughter's 18th birthday celebrations where she swore an oath to the Constitution this year. He is laying low. We will see his wife sometimes, but Juan Carlos, very, very select appearances. And it's usually for places where he has these deep royal connections. So apparently the Jordanian royal family is one of them.
It's honestly stunning that the Spanish monarchy seems to somewhat be doing so well, thinking this all only happened 3 years ago. The former king was stealing millions of dollars. I would not trust his son, no matter how good looking he is, and his wife. I'm just saying, I'm not even saying that he's his daddy, but I'm just surprised that they're so light. I feel like I'd be a little bit why would I trust you?
Yeah, I the advantage either. Yeah, I don't know. It was a head scratcher, but the entire day was just fascinating to watch. And that's why it's on both of our best list, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It felt like a real royal moment, and the real royal moment we needed after the coronation did not deliver.
Now, I did have the coronation as one of my best moments. Only because on a personal level, I enjoyed it so much. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've tuned in live for a royal event. I had my partner here and I had some friends over and we watched and we drank mimosas and that was really fun. It's been a while since we've gotten to do that. The Jubilee, we did the same thing, but
okay, that's fun.
There were so many little tidbits. Not Charles. Charles was not the most interesting part of Coronation Day, but it was just seeing what everyone was going to wear. And oh my God, the Waleses are late. They got here after the king did. Katy Perry can't find her seat. Things like that made it a best moment for me.
Katy Perry not being able to find her seat. And that, what did she wear? Who did she wear?
It was Vivienne Westwood.
Yes, and it did not fit. That's all I remember about that one. I'm boo boo. This isn't this. I can understand. Okay, but no, that was too much. I was girl, you look uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable for you. Also, the tiara, not tiara moment from Kate was so sly and so smart and so good. Charlotte, Louise, George. And I mean, Charlotte and Kate, the coordination there was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
I also loved what we can call Cape Gate, with the insistence that there was a detachable cape to Kate's dress. And I still to this day hold that there was not. There was no cape. And I look back really fondly on those arguments because I was living. It didn't matter.
Same. McQueen is amazing, but I'm sorry, Sarah Borden is not a magician. Okay, can we stop? She is not the fairy godmother over here.
Yeah, it was just nice to argue about something that did not matter once again.
That's so true. Or people would be why would Kate do that? She would never. Kate would never get something made that's almost exactly the same. I'm are we talking about the same woman? She's done that twice this year other than the coronation, okay?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, it was just all around. It was a fun time. I did not care about the man whose party it was, but I liked having something that big to talk about again, I guess.
So to kind of round off our top moments of the 2023 year, I have to talk about Harry and Meghan being outside more. We obviously saw them at Invictus. We saw them at the Beyonce concert. We saw them at the Katy Perry concert. They went to the Lakers game was also this year where Meghan wore the pink suit with the shorts. Yeah. So I feel like I'm also missing another one. But in all of those, they're cheering people on. They're having a good time. Meghan's, awkwardly dancing, but in the cutest way possible at Beyonce. And then she went for the second night by herself and she's with all the stars. And then just seeing them at Katy Perry and even Invictus, the way they were celebrating in the crowd, singing the songs and giving out treats to the kids and stuff. I feel like a lot of that we were supposed to see. And I feel like it's introducing fun again to Harry and Meghan, but especially with Meghan, like that Clever Blend ad. It's like bring back fun to Meghan. And Meghan said, I'm going to do it. And we're going to see me have fun. And you're going to smile when you see me, not just be like, oh, what drama is getting brought up?
Yeah, and that's not to say that it's not strategic. The moments that we see them out having fun, especially you brought up Megan's Clever ad, which was very recent. But I
Yes.
love it. It's because every time she goes outside, I wrote a Substack article about this. It was like my first one. Every time she goes outside, she'll make the front page of some paper in the
Oh,
UK,
yes.
even though it's not
Yes.
remotely related to her work, even if it is just her and Harry like being humans. They
Exactly.
still command so much attention and their images are
Hmm.
so powerful. And those moments are really fun reminders of that because we can all sit at home and
Yes.
we can see exactly what's going on, like the game that is still kind of being played by one side only, the British press. But Harry and Meghan are
Yes.
just, I think they are living their best lives and moving into that era.
Exactly. And it's a really great giving that imagery to that. Like, you guys are still complaining, but we're out here living our best lives. And yes, that's taking private jets to places. Yes, that's being friends with Beyonce and going to her concerts. That's taking our team out to a Lakers game because that was with the
Yeah.
Archwell team that they took them out with. I think there was another like Archwell event they went to. It was taking the whole team out, and it was something really fun. And I think a sporting event. Oh, the Canada. I don't know if that was with Archwell, but
Mm-hmm.
there's also the hockey game. To announce Invictus and stuff like that. And that's again seeing Meghan having a good time, really into the game. A reminder that she lived in Canada for how long and was into hockey and knows the game well. Sporty
Mm-hmm.
Meghan, and all of those for me were just really fun moments to see that. I mean, especially the Beyonce moments, but I also think just really smart to talk about her branding and make it, or not talk about her brand, but to have her brand being something of I can have fun. I like to go out with my girls. We heard about her going to Taylor Swift supposedly, and I love that for her. And I hope we see more of that in 2024.
Yes, because it's not just her having fun, it's her uplifting some community or other whenever she's being seen at this point. Because we get those couple paparazzi shots of her doing stuff around Montecito, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the
Yes,
moments where you can tell she is on, she is ready to like shine and just and spend time with
exactly.
people who are in this new chapter in her life, which we love.
Exactly. And being like a girl's girl. Like, we love that. We love
Yes.
that.
Yes, absolutely. I don't have a good segue. I was going to say, speaking of a girl's girl, but my worst moments. Well, okay, we could do speaking of a girl's girl or not for one of my worst moments. Are you ready for it?
Yes. I know
it's,
with this, I'm like, wait, who, what?
it's another very recent one. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it too much on my pages just because of the holidays coming up. But Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden and Prince Daniel visiting the UK and getting ignored by Will and Kate
Oh,
at
yes.
the Royal Variety performance.
It
This
was
is
very
something I
awkward.
saw picked up in a couple media outlets, and it doesn't bode well for the global statesman image I think that William is trying to
No,
foster here. Sorry, this is a weird one to start out on because it is not the biggest worst moment of 2023 in the royal world, but it's one that like
it's important.
snuck through for me. Yeah. So if
Hmm.
you don't know what I'm talking about, when Will and Kate hosted Victoria and Daniel, they went to the Royal Variety performance. This is where Kate wore her teal turquoise, what some people called her revenge dress. We can agree to disagree on that. But out of that evening, there were no pictures of the two royal couples together. And I thought that was so odd. And people had to go looking
None.
for video clips of them. And the interactions that we saw were so awkward. It was embarrassing. And we've talked about state visits on this podcast before about how they're supposed to be all about fostering these connections and these like informal friendship bonds. That was not what I saw. And I saw
No.
Victoria and Daniel getting like left behind, not being introduced to people by Will and Kate, which like that's your role when you're hosting an informal visit. It was
Very
just
basic things that they should be doing as a
yeah, it was
host.
not good.
And
So
knowing too that Victoria's close or seems to be close with other European royal women, it's interesting seeing her interact well or not interact with Kate, because you can tell it's
yeah.
absolutely not the same vibe. Just recently on my Instagram, I reposted some photos of it was Queen Maxima,
Crown
Princess
Princess
Mary,
Mary. Yeah.
and I forgot the blonde woman.
Was it Mette Marit
I'm
of Norway?
Yes. And it was
Yeah.
for Victoria's wedding. And they're
Mm-hmm.
literally crying and like
Mm-hmm.
gushing, seeing her come out in her wedding dress and stuff like that. Like the girlhood, the sisterhood that I think Meghan thought she was walking into, you could actually
Yeah.
see there. And it's so noticeable, for one, that Kate isn't a part of that, because they don't send any of the higher up royals. It's usually the Wessex,
Yeah.
and they don't seem to
Yeah.
be very close to these other European families. But I think, especially in these moments when they do interact with William and Kate, you can see that these are just kind of, I don't know, the distant cousins that you see once a year at Thanksgiving dinner. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
there's not that chemistry there whatsoever. And William and Kate don't seem to care to appear like there is that sort of chemistry.
Yeah, it's this. I mean, they're looking for a CEO for their royal household. I think that tells you all that you need to know. It's business for them. It's not
It's
a
business.
relationship to be kept up. And it sucks because that is a fundamental change, I think, to how the royal world works. But I think that's
Yes.
what we can expect from them going forward, unless they get some advice based on this last visit from Sweden. But that was
And
cringe for
speaking
me.
of not a girl's girl, one of my worst moments was when we saw Crown Prince Frederick. Okay, let me actually set the scene a little bit more. So, Crown Prince Frederick, I am blanking on what country he's for.
Denmark.
Can you remember? Thank you, Amanda. Denmark had the Spanish royals come visit first, a trip.
Mm-hmm.
As this is happening, it breaks in the Spanish press that Crown Prince Frederick was in Spain and is photographed being seen around 7 and 8 o'clock at night, leaving the apartment of a woman, this really pretty blonde woman who I guess is an actress, who they
Yeah.
also say make sure to let us know is single and lives alone. They're seen
Mm-hmm.
leaving her house. They go to a restaurant. They come back around 1 o'clock in the morning. He's seen going inside and not leaving until the next morning in a different
Yeah.
outfit and with a bag. So
Yeah.
I think we can all kind of summarize it was like, oh my gosh, is he cheating
Yeah.
on Crown Princess Mary? Which, how
Well, and
dare
that
you?
visit when he was in Spain, first of all, that wasn't an official visit. Apparently, the officials had no idea he was there. And Crown Princess
Mm-hmm.
Mary, at the time those pictures were taken, was in New York City doing stuff at the United
Yes.
Nations. So this was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. And the fact that the Spanish press held on to that and dropped it when
Yeah.
the Spanish royals were in Denmark was so petty, and just another layer of the storytelling and pettiness going on here. And they got quotes from sources saying,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, we see him around here all the time. Like, this isn't
Mm-hmm.
surprising.
Yeah.
So I just,
And
a moment of shock and awe. Okay.
yeah. And people tried to come for me for I made a TikTok about it. And listen, with royal affairs, I never sit here and speculate on is it happening, is it not happening? I'm just here to tell you what is being reported if I think it's interesting enough.
Mm-hmm.
William and Rose. But
Yes.
with this one in particular, as soon as I posted the pictures, which were like they were really bad pictures, they were taken from a distance and like kind of grainy. But the first round of them, there was some doubt. People were like, I don't think that's Crown Prince Frederick. And I was like, okay, you think
Yes.
if this wasn't him in this picture, the palace would be saying, we don't comment on the private lives of the royals instead of that
Exactly.
wasn't him. So no
Because they do
denial.
comment too. They do
Mm-hmm.
comment about controversies going on. So that was also very noticeable that they said, we won't be commenting on this, because Like when what happened, the youngest son left the Denmark family and put out that statement. The whole family was talking to the press.
They
They
are.
were making
Yeah.
statements and they were talking to the press. They usually deal with this stuff head on. And it was very noticeable that they were like, we're not commenting on personal matters. We don't do that, which it's like, but you guys do, though. You
Individually,
do.
they do. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Like,
And Crown
okay.
Princess
I
Mary,
mean,
God love her. As soon as this news broke, people were scrutinizing her every move. And there was that one moment where they
yes.
were leaving. I think it was still the state visit. They were leaving a gala or something,
Mm-hmm.
concert. She was icy. She was flustered. She like forgot to shake somebody's hand. She got to the car, had to
Yes,
turn
one of the
around.
diplomats.
It
Yes, had to
was,
do a full turnaround to
ugh.
come back and shake their hand because she knew,
And
like,
that's
I have to
very
do this. Like,
unusual.
this is,
Very unusual for her
and
because
and
she's always
obviously
polished.
it could be for numerous reasons. Just the fact that this has been reported at all, whether it's true or not, would fluster anyone. Or there's also the other possibilities of this. Maybe it's true and it's being outed. Who knows? But that was that was
It came out of
shocking and
nowhere. Yeah.
out of nowhere. And like, I don't follow the Denmark family as closely as the British royal family. So,
Hmm.
especially for me, someone who just kind of cheers them on from the outside, I was like, another
Yeah.
one? Another
Yeah.
one?
It
Because
hurt.
honestly, you guys, when you look more and more into the history of royal men, it is more likely they cheat than they do not. So let's just hope that Frederick is an exception and not the norm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
We can stay international really quick because my next worst royal moment of the year was Princess Amalia of the Netherlands, who was attending university this year for the first time. She is
Oh,
what?
yes.
She's 18. Let's see, 19 maybe now. But she is attending university and she can no longer leave her house because of threats against her life, of kidnapping and assassination. And I remembered that these kind of kicked off this year, and it just made me so sad because we had so many
Very
royals
sad for her.
turn 18 this year. We had Prince Christian of Denmark, we had Princess Sophia, I think, yes, in Spain.
Yes.
And it's just like a reminder that it's really, really hard, even now where there is so much more privacy for young royals. It's so hard for them to live royal lives. And Princess Amalia is a perfect example. She's, spoken out about how it's really, really tough for her right now. And she can't go to class unless she's like attended by armed security with surveillance. And
So
it's,
awkward.
yeah, it's awful. I don't
Like,
know.
yeah,
I had to throw that in there as maybe like a more somber, worst moment before my favorite one of the year. But
please, please give it to us.
hard pivot. Okay, my number one worst royal moment of this year was King Charles III versus pens. It has to be. Because we're coming off of the
We're gonna
coronation.
be his downfall, okay? His
We're coming off
downfall.
of the coronation. Not one, but two horrendous moments caught live on camera, and they both involved a pen. And you can't make this up. You can't make it up. And I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, oh wait, that was like 2022 that happened. But time is blending together. We can talk about King Charles like reign kicking off this year. It's fine. But
That's what it feels like. Yeah, like
right.
I forget. Like, when did this happen? No, Charles is definitely like that old man. He's like, I'm old, I can do and say what I want, and genuinely forgets. I feel like the cameras are right
Right
there in
there.
front of his face, looking for a moment. Okay, like you don't always get a viral moment, and the only time you really do is when you're being messy, and you gave him two messy moments. Like, man,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
don't like you. Like,
It made me wonder, like, how much preparation did he do for being king beyond, like, I don't know, making a list of all his good ideas, right? Actually, I was thinking about this in terms of like gender and sex politics, and it was making me really angry because I was like, Queen Elizabeth was so good at never letting her
mm,
mask drop. And I think that's something that women in the royal world are expected to cultivate. Kate, Meghan, they're
yes,
expected to be perfect all the time. And the men are given a lot more leeway. And
so
King
much free
Charles,
reign.
just exploding over that ballpoint pen, which exploded over his hands. And then just nastiness that when that thing was in his way and he's like, get this out of my face. It's just...
His face. I know. And it's like, this is day 2 on the job. And you can give him like some credit, like his mom just passed away. He's taking on this new job. But the fact of the matter is his mother didn't get that same benefit of the doubt. She just lost her father. She had to climb down that tree. She had to come back and make sure she had the perfect dress on and the perfect kitty heels and so on.
You know what?
And she had to take
over. That's a moment that we still talk about 70 years later because of how perfectly she executed it. And now
the grace, yes.
And now King Charles, he started out his own reign with that in everyone's minds. Like, I feel like that might have been the most watched moment from his coronation.
Oh, totally.
Well, not coronation, but accession. But yeah.
And I mean, it went along with so many of the memes, just calling him just like a brat. I mean, the memes that are just solely making fun of him and make fun of him when he gets the crown put on his head and stuff. And it's just like, it all goes back to treating him like he's a child being awarded for something small that he did. And that's not where they want the royals to be, especially the monarch, but that's where he is with people. And I think, I mean, there's many reasons why he's going to struggle to get the people on his side. And I think it's because, one, we're in 2023 and times are changing. There's a cost of living crisis and people are asking questions about societal norms. And then there's also the fact that he is an old man. Ageism is a thing in our culture. Okay, he's not a beautiful young man. He's an old man that has sausage fingers. So it's like, you got to give some personality, my man. And it's like the initial personality that you're giving people is you just acting like an asshole. It just doesn't look good. Like, even William would know better than that. And that man barely knows anything. Right. That was mean. He knows something, but
we've gotten so many more moments where it's just like Charles, he's not showing us grace. He's not showing us any poise as king. It really does seem to be like this battle of wills all the time when he's on center stage. And so that is one of the worst things for me.
I think too, another worst moment, and I will say worst with Charles, was more recently, but it was during the COP27, the climate change convention they do. And I forgot where it took place.
Was it UAE this year, the United Arab Emirates? Yeah.
But the prime minister is currently beefing with Greece because he doesn't want to give them back these art pieces. I'm forgetting what the art pieces are called. You guys, sorry, I did not look this up beforehand. But they were theirs.
I know, I'm an art historian.
Yes, please, thank you.
I think it's the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon, which is a classic debate within the art history world because Britain literally stole them. Literally.
And they also steal from white people. Yeah, they do that. And they don't want to give them back. So a meeting was canceled between the PM and the Greek prime minister too, because he doesn't pretty much want to discuss this at all. So during the COP27, Charles wears a tie with the Greek flag on it. And obviously he's also partially Greek. Philip here, obviously his father, and he's always been very proud of his Greek heritage. But the timing was definitely showing whose side he was on with this debate. And that usually you're like, why would that be a worst moment? And for me, it's a worst moment because how dare you, a monarch of the British royal family, think you can have a say in this? Think you can pipe up and have a say and think you're doing something, suddenly standing up for stolen art when you sat there and crowned yourself and had all of these stolen diamonds on you and your wife for your coronation. Like, it really just shows the ignorance and the fact that you don't really care unless it personally affects you or it's white people that were stolen from. Because the black and brown people have been very loud and vocal about everything you're stolen and what they want back. It's quiet. There's not a tie in place with the Indian flag. Okay. Nothing. So
it's two things for me. Yeah. Two things with me, along with the hypocrisy. It's either that kind of blatant disregard for his own place in history as a representative of this institution, or it is just straight up ignorance and a coincidence. And we've talked about this with Kate before, like, because sometimes I think there's some room to maybe give her the benefit of the doubt when people think she's had an outfit slip up, a diplomatic dressing slip up. It could
Yeah,
truly just be that these people are that oblivious, and don't even read the news. I think that is another equally horrific possibility. Or
exactly.
it's what you said, and he is trying to step his foot into politics. And in that case, I also hate it, because that is another hallmark of Charles' short reign so far, is this like tug of war that he seems to be in with the government, when the whole
Yes.
thing we've been told about the British monarchy for the past 7 decades is that they are apolitical and above politics. And with Charles, we're finding
Mm,
out that that's suddenly not the case. I'm
nope.
also reminded of an excerpt that's getting a little bit of attention from Endgame right now, where Omid writes that it was actually Rishi Sunak's government who wanted the coronation to be big and lavish. And that's why it was so, like, I think, out of step with what Charles kept saying he wanted, which was,
Yes,
the
because he's
scaled
talking about
down
more
ceremony.
condensed. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll try and find the TikTok to send it to you if you haven't seen it yet. But it's basically, the explanation coming out now is that no, Rishi Sunak and his cabinet wanted the coronation to be as big and lavish as possible, so that the heat for the cost of living crisis went off of them. And because for
Smart,
weeks after the
unfortunately smart.
coronation, who were people pointing the fingers at? The royals.
Exactly.
So,
Specifically
and
King Charles.
it's just, if you're going to be above it, then be above it. I think
Hmm.
Charles wants to have his way so badly that he gets himself in these situations where he can't help but be implicated in politics, and it's not fun to watch.
It's not. It's that Scorpio popping out, which is you don't know when
Hmm.
to shut up. You don't know when
Yeah.
to leave the argument or just not
Never
have it. Pick
complain,
and
never
choose, sir.
explain.
Okay, the Scorpio said, "I rebuke, I rebuke." We have
No,
fun.
but absolutely, we do. It's
And just
but
real quick too on that with Kate and the dressing thing, I agree with you. I think some of it is she simply and Natasha don't know. Natasha is also a very rich white woman who lives, in her community, and that's it. That people look just like her and
uh,
think just like her. But I also have to remind people it's just not an excuse though, because if diplomatic dressing is going to be your thing,
mhm,
if you are going to press that it is your thing and that you're so smart about it, then you got to always be smart about it. Wearing the
mhm,
opposition's colors when you're in Jamaica, when you're going to meet the prime minister, is not smart, and there's not an excuse for that. You should know these things. So yeah, it's just like with Charles, like, oh, some source was like, he didn't mean anything about it. It's like, yes, he did. Yes, he did. And if
mhm,
he genuinely didn't know that happens, he's ignorant and stupid. Like, this is your
mhm.
job. This is you should know these basics before you
Yeah,
get dressed in the morning and you choose your tie. Which, let's be
absolutely.
real, we all know he purposely meant to wear that and to send a message. I don't think he just expected people to also talk about the fact he refuses to give back stolen goods too, or at least participate in that conversation and hold the government to some sort of standard like he will for his Greek family.
Right.
Because I'm pretty
Right.
sure he's like the godfather to one of the Greek royals too. They're like famously close with that family for some reason, even though they're not even real royals because they got like voted out.
They literally did.
Anyways,
Well, and that's the other, we have to do a deep dive on the Greek royals at some point, because when you said he's proud of his
please.
Greek heritage, it's also not Greek heritage in the way I think we want it to be, like,
Mm-hmm.
ethnically Greek. It's Prince Philip was Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. Like, these were,
Yes,
for the most part, European transplants to Greece that made up the royal family, and
that's
that's
very
kind of how it
true.
is today. That I just want to get that note in there, and maybe that'll be a teaser for a future deep dive.
Yes, that would be a very fun one to do. A very fun
Yeah.
one.
Well, since you mentioned these things have to be thought of when you're getting dressed in the morning, do you want to move on to best and worst royal fashion of the year?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
you take us away. You want to do best or worst
So
first?
I'll do okay. I'm gonna start out with Kate because she did bring us some best Jordanian royal wedding. That look, the Ellie Saab, the earrings, there's a rumor that those were actually gifted to her for her wedding, and they're from a Middle Eastern royal family, could have been the Jordanian royal family. That was a beautiful look. The hair, okay, she gave us that old Hollywood curls with the deep part. She gave us a flash of that huge, beautiful diamond that costs more than my life. Okay. It's just that diamond was gorgeous, you guys. That dress was beautiful. So that was a top moment for me. That was like a top 5 for Jordanian royal wedding outfits for me, but overall looks too. But then she also gets one of my worst because the red cape with the red, it was giving linebacker. The more I go back and look at that look, the more I'm just like, absolutely not. Absolutely not, ma'am. It's just...
The more I look at it, the more I get Red Riding Hood, because I just think there should be bloomers on the bottom. Every time I see that look, I look at it from the top down, and I'm expecting them when I get to her legs.
Yes.
It's not in my worst, but it's not good.
Yeah, that one got my worst, and I think maybe it's just because I'm so disappointed with it, because that cloak is beautiful, and I think I have a feeling Natasha will never ever style it correctly. So I just said, you know what, you are going where you belong, and that is worst. one of the worst for me.
That's fair. Kate did get one of my best. I have two. Do I have two bests? Yes, I have two best outfits. Kate was one of them, and it was her outfit at the ceremony for her being sworn in as Colonel-in-Chief of the Irish Guards, which was this year.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's that teal number, which was genius on so many levels. Because I think once you get past, it was, St. Patrick's Day, once you get past the fact that it's not like a straight green outfit and you get into the details of it, I thought it was perfection. From everything from like the buttons on it matching the buttons worn by the regiment, like the pattern of them, to the color of the outfit, like matching the plume on their hats or their ceremonial dress. I loved it so much, and it looked luxurious in a way that Kate's red cape did not. The hat was beautiful. It was stunning, absolutely stunning.
That was a really beautiful look, and I think too it was giving us a military look that wasn't so military cosplay. Like she found what she needed to there. She was right in the middle. It was giving off what it needed to give without her pretending to play dress up as someone who was in the military.
Well, it's so funny you should mention that, because that is how I decided on my worst royal look of the year, which might surprise you. But it was Queen Camilla at Trooping the Color, which was military cosplay. That was the day everyone was in their red uniforms, and she had a dress made by like her normal dressmaker to look like a uniform with the shoulder details, the neck details. She had this little hat on that could have looked military inspired, but it was just a dress.
That was so ugly.
Crazy. Drove me crazy. And like once you get to the like waist, there's no belt, nothing. It just goes into the same old like shapeless kind of tent dress that she always wears. Made me sad, made me kind of angry, because someone like Princess Anne regularly appears in military uniform. Queen Elizabeth regularly appeared in like a feminine version, like a female coded version of her military uniforms. They were military like regulation. Queen Victoria, you can go all the way back to her. She had military uniforms made for her within like the fashion guidelines expected of women of the day, but it wasn't playing dress up, and that's what this was, and it drove me nuts. But she blended in on that balcony, and Kate stood out, so maybe that is
so funny.
Yeah,
that was her karma.
Yeah,
my best dress was definitely Queen Maxima. It was in that beautiful white gown by Van Harpen.
Yeah,
that was recently when she was in Paris. That, oh my gosh, my jaw dropped. That was stunning, because I'm pretty sure she's worn her gown once before, but this one I think was so stunning because one of the color, the fit was divine. It just fit her so perfectly. She was glowing in it. I know some people didn't like maybe the hair choices and stuff, but I kind of loved it because I thought like that is such a gown. It's smart to just let it shine and do all it needs to do. You and your face. She's got a beautiful face. She's got a rockin' body, and she had a beautiful gown, and they did all they needed to do together.
I also loved that it was an evening event, because she was photographed another time in an Iris Van Herpen gown, and it was again at evening, so there was
Yes.
like the flash and the contrast with the background. I think it just worked so perfectly with how sculptural that dress
Mm-hmm.
was. I loved it so much. It was a statement piece, and it really let the work of the person she was there to celebrate shine and and be the
Oh,
focal point.
totally. Like, talk about a way to represent her work in the most beautiful way. France's first lady was there, that weirdo with that ugly
Yeah.
bob, and she was not wearing the designer.
Mm-mm.
And you guys, I make fun of this woman, and I'm gonna say now why I'm so mean to her. She's a weirdo, and she started dating, started seeing and connecting with her husband when he was 16. She was one of his
Yeah.
teachers. So when I
Yeah.
say ugly and an ugly bob, I mean it because that's what I call pedos. Okay.
That's a
And
fuck
I'll
ass
take it
Bob
back.
on Brigitte
Okay,
Baccarat.
a fuck ass Bob. It's getting Lord. What's his name? Lord from Shrek.
Farquaad.
It's giving
Lord
Lord
Farquaad.
Farquhar to the most. If he went blonde, they would have the same exact hair. Okay, that's all I'm gonna
Ooh, this is a tangent.
say.
Well, that was my runner up, but I went with a different one as my best, which was also from Queen Maxima. I hate to say it, but my best look for Maxima was also in France, but it was when she was on the state visit and she wore that red evening gown. It was the same color of her sash, and it had the like balloon sleeves. It was off the shoulder, and it was just so stunning. She's looking it up right
Queen
now.
Maxima. Yes, I am. I am googling this right now because I want to be in the moment with it.
And she wore it
Oh
with a
yes,
pearl
yep.
tiara and like pearl drop earrings and all these, the royal honors and the brooches. Stunning. And this is why I
She
love
can
royal
do an
watching.
evening gown like no one else. She knows
Mm-mm.
how to really bring it with an evening gown, especially with the tiara. She does her tiara so well with the evening gowns. Like,
Yeah.
true credit to her. That's why, because she does a lot. It'd be a lot sometimes, but in the most fun way. Even if I don't like it, I'm like, at least it's fun. It's fun to
It's giving
watch.
what it needed to give.
Oh, yeah. That's a beautiful look in that. Ooh. Yes,
Yeah.
Kate, take some notes. Don't just take notes on
Just
Meghan. Take notes on Maxima.
some royals, they're allowed to get away with luxury because of all the favor they have amongst their people, and some are not. And I think Maxima is one who is not only able to get away with it, but who does it really well.
Exactly. And she's known for it. It's a part of her style and people expect it. It's
Mm-hmm.
smart. It's very smart.
All right. Speaking of luxury in a not good way, you're gonna hate me, but my second worst outfit of the royals this year was Princess Rajwa's reception dress. Not her wedding dress, but the one she put on for
Oh,
her
yes.
reception with
Oh, my
the
gosh.
crown molding
Oh, my
dress,
gosh.
the Barbie cake dress, as
Horrible.
many people called
That's what
it.
you
And
get when you call on Dolce & Gabbana to make your dress. That's what you
ugh,
deserve at that point.
yeah.
Okay.
And so many people were just trying to tell me I didn't understand fashion and I didn't understand luxury. I was like, no, it's ugly. It's just ugly. It's got
It's
like a
just
bubble
ugly.
hem. The
It's
gloves looked cheap. I didn't like it.
like, I don't want to understand if that means I'm going to like that look. I don't want to understand because it's just, like you said, it was giving Barbie cake topper. I remember her walking out with it. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
it
which sucks
just,
because we've seen from the two Jordanian royal weddings this year that modest dressing can be stunning, can be gorgeous. And
it's
this dress
stunning.
let them down.
It was so bad. And even just like in the group photo, it's just giving cake topper. Just put her on top of the
Mhm.
cake. That's where she went next, just on top of the cake.
And I don't think it helps that all the pictures we got out of that reception were in like that weird antechamber of wherever they were having the reception. And it was like ugly hotel
Yes.
carpeting, ugly lighting, but I don't think anything could have
Bad
saved that
lighting.
dress.
Like the lighting was just yellow, just straight up
Yeah.
yellow, which no one looks good under that fluorescent light,
Uh-uh.
yellow light. Like just, oh, it was so
Those
I know she was. I just want to know who pressured her into that dress. Was that her own styling decision? Because her style is so chic. I just want to know who made the choice on that reception dress because it seems so far out of her style too.
hmm Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it was a mother-in-law choice, but it doesn't even seem like it's a Queen Rania style dress.
No,
I
she
don't know.
usually does better when she goes, more maximal with her style. I feel like she wouldn't even go there. So maybe she was just trying to do something different, and unfortunately, she hired Dolce and Gabbana to do it, and it backfired. And
Yeah.
that's what happens. That is what happens when you hire them. They haven't been able to design since the 90s, okay? I like, for my other worst, the only other one I can think of is, which I can't believe I'm going to say this because I love her and she takes up a
Mm,
lot of my favorite lists, but was Queen Letizia for the Denmark visit. Again, we talked about this before with her and her gowns, how they overwhelm her. And then she puts on a giant tiara too. And it's
yeah.
just like, it's
Yeah.
giving Barbie, 80s Barbie, like Christmas, the Christmas edition, but not in a good way. And
Well,
that
and
blue
yeah.
dress, it just looked way too big on her.
Yeah. It's
And I'm just like,
unfortunate.
you're swimming in it.
She's so, yeah, she is, she's just petite, and the tiaras that the Spanish royal family has, they look like Glinda from Wizard of Oz. They're huge. They're like pageant
Yes,
tiaras.
so,
And then you put them on this teeny tiny woman, and she has no choice but to go big with the gowns most of the time. Just to
mm,
kind of try and I would imagine balance so that she can walk.
like
Yeah, that
she's
was
meant
another
for
one.
like a sleek, chic look. And unfortunately, when she goes outside of that with the ball gowns, it's just not working for her. And I remember seeing that and be like, I knew this was going to happen, but I'm still just like, no, please, no.
Yeah.
So Amanda had a good idea for Royal MVP this year.
Hmm.
And I actually kind of I got to split mine almost in half because I got to give a little shout out to Harry for winning his case and it being on the
Fair.
record by a judge that Piers Morgan is a liar and lied about not
Hmm.
knowing about the hacking that was going on at, what was it, the Express while he was editor there.
Hmm.
But my main one is definitely Luis. Pretty much Luis with the boots and the fur. That's all the song that keeps getting stuck in my head every time I think about him walking up to the Christmas Carol in those boots. Okay, looking
That's
so cute.
That is Prince
Saying,
Louis, if you are not familiar with Alex's colloquial pronunciations on this podcast. Prince Louis.
yes, I'll keep my little Louis, my little Louis. I'm going to butcher it with my American accent. Yes, I am. But, and also just like beating those, I have to wear shorts until I'm 6 or whatever
Yes.
allegations. He said, this is the benefits of being the second spare. Do what I want. Okay.
Hmm. I loved him at the Christmas Carol concert.
So sweet.
So sweet. I liked when he yelled
He,
at that nutcracker. I did enjoy that,
and
seeing that.
I just love that still. They just let him be who he is. Let him be who
Yeah.
he is in public. And I love that. I love that for him. And I love that his parents allow that because he is who he is. He's what, 5 years old? Let him be 5.
Hmm. Yeah, more of that energy, please, into the next year. Okay, for my royal MVP, I thought a lot about this and I didn't want to just say like Harry like you did because I think that's what people expect. But I'm gonna give it to Queen Rania of Jordan. Um, Not just because she pulled off 2 stunning royal weddings, which is not easy to do.
Yes.
Two in the space of
No.
like 3 or 4 months. That
Mm-hmm.
was huge, and they were stunning and good press for the Jordanian royal family, but also because she has been, and the whole Jordanian royal family, Crown Prince Hussein and King Abdullah, they have been using their platform in the past few months to speak out against the genocide happening in Palestine. And I
Mm-hmm.
am always going to admire that if a royal is able to not just not do what Charles is doing and kind of lash out from his platform, but to actually take a stand and make it clear that that is
Yes.
your stance and you're going to stick to it. For the past several months, these Jordanian royals have been hitting up the United Nations. They've been posting speeches. They've been on the ground doing the visits, doing the work, and Queen Rania especially has been doing it with such poise and just like
Mm-hmm.
watching her, it's just inspiring. If you didn't read, she wrote an op-ed for Christmas, which was,
So good.
it was
Oh,
heartbreaking.
it
It
got me
was
emotional.
I forget which paper it was in, but it was titled "Christmas is
Oh,
Canceled"
Washington
in
Post.
Washington Post. It was called "Christmas is Canceled in the Land of Jesus' Birth," and it's just, it tugs at your heartstrings, and that is an
Oh,
example
it's
of a royal
beautiful.
who is using their platform intelligently and to be on the right side of history.
Exactly. And a reminder, she's Palestinian. Both of her parents are.
Mhm. And
So this
the
is
capital of
very close to
Jordan,
her.
And the capital of Jordan is just a couple hours away from the Gaza Strip. So it's
Exactly.
happening in her backyard. It's happening probably to people that she knows. And I applaud
And
her
I
for not
know,
just taking,
mhm,
the apolitical stance.
especially because they love their European folks because they love their European money. So the fact they are speaking out so vocally, I'm sure has cost them, especially financially, but they
Well, we were
continue to.
mentioning Ivanka at the wedding. Ivanka's big
Exactly.
into, her husband is Jewish, so that's a big part of her identity now. And you do wonder what
And
this
they are
is.
supporting the genocide. They are supporting it with their whole chest, the genocide. So yeah, they're
Yeah,
missing, they're losing some friends. So
right.
knowing that and knowing they're still speaking out and continue to, a lot of respect for her. A
Yeah,
lot of respect for her. And
yeah.
you guys, please read the Washington Post article that she wrote because, and the reason why it's so, at least got me so emotional, is because she's stating so many facts, but facts that are heartbreaking because it is
Hmm.
affecting real people's lives. Like, so how many? We're at 10,000 dead. Okay, the
Hmm.
bombings were happening on Christmas Day. Like, the facts are just jarring, and I think it's so important to hear from people who are personally affected by it and people who grew up with Palestinian parents and know these people as humans, not just, as terrorists, as some people want you to think of Palestinians. It's a very important read in everything that they're doing. They're also, Jordan is also supporting Gaza with sending out
Yes.
critical medical needs and stuff like that. I know Princess Salma
Hmm.
was a part of one of the recent drops too, which was really
Yeah.
big. And he did a very great video on it and the startup to all of that. So and those two, I wonder what's like it's going to be like for them with like the British royal family who are taking, not really a stance at all, but how that's going to be for them. Are we going to see Beatrice hanging out with them next year?
Yeah.
These are the
It's
type of things
yeah.
too that will affect relationships. So again, it's a very big deal that they are standing strong on this.
Absolutely. And since you brought up the British royal family, I'm thinking too, like, I think King Charles, his Christmas speech this year was all about peace and how conflict is tearing us apart. And I don't know, the energy that the British royals had in support of Ukraine last year,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't help but think, okay, this is where we are now in 2023.
Yeah.
And there is an
Like,
example of a
please.
royal doing the right thing and taking the truly, like, like, I don't know, human centric stance here, which is, hey, genocide is bad, and isn't afraid to say that. And it's just, yeah, it's a jarring contrast for
And they're
sure.
afraid to say it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing like what we've seen for what they did for Ukraine has been seeing that support for Palestinians is very interesting. But all,
Hmm.
mostly, like you said, just sad. It's like
Yeah.
it's really easy for you to talk about peace and how bad conflict is when you're sitting there on your in your ivory tower.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
okay,
so for royal MVP, I think you want it always to be somebody who can actually be a role model. So Prince Harry, Prince Louis, and Queen Rania are our three.
that is a fun one. That's a fun little group. I'd like to see all three of them together. Honestly.
That could be fun.
That'd be
That
a
could be
fun
fun.
group. It would be great. And we hope you guys have a great New Year's, a safe one first and foremost, and are excited about what will 2024 bring us.
Mm.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see what our first bananas article of 2024 will be because I just have a feeling it'll be wild.
It'll have to be truly bananas if it's gonna punch through any of the crap that's been put out in the end of 2023. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
but
If I
hopefully
am
it
not typing in whose family members saved us from slavery, it's not bananas enough for me. It is just
mm-mm.
not.
Mm-mm. I hope traditionally the Royals take like a couple weeks to ease into the year, and I hope that that's what they do this year. So it's not too bananas until I get back. I'm visiting Ireland and London in the middle of January. So if you do see me, it is me. You can say hi. But
Yes. I know, Royals, please just be quiet for a couple weeks. We need our own little vacation, okay? Just keep it cute for 2 weeks and then come back full force when we're back, okay? And then we'll be
I
very
know.
appreciative.
Gonna say the Christmas break is always tough when you're talking about the Royals because you have to be up on Christmas morning to watch them walk to church.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable. Oh, we do need a
And then like
vacation.
nothing for 2 weeks. Yes. And we're
Yeah.
taking one, you guys, a much needed one. And we're really excited for any of our Patreon subscribers. We're going to be putting up a poll very soon. So you guys get to pick what our listeners on the free feed get to hear. We're going to put up a couple of our deep dives and see what you guys want them to hear. I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoyed our best of, worst of, and everything in between. Keep those pinkies up. Bye.